I'm quitting teaching in Australia after 9.5 years. And here's the reason why. Few people really know this. I nearly didn't make it as a teacher when I first started 9.5 years ago. So today I really want to talk about the push and the pulls of making this decision and what's next. And if you're new here, my name is Vaughn Littlejohns. I help educators master their mindset, use technology, and leverage their time to make more impact in education. So rewind back to 2015. I went out to a small little town called Gunnedah when I first was finishing my teaching degree. And it was pretty intense. I had a 3-month block and I basically got verbally abused every single day. I had little year 7 students running around woodwork rooms, swearing their heads off, literally jumping up and screaming in my face. And I thought, this can't be it. I haven't just invested nearly 6 years of my life in this is what I'm going to get. But realistically, that exactly was not the case. All I needed was a bit of a shift. I'm making a massive life-changing decision and I'm quitting teaching in Australia. First, I did a business degree and I hated it, but I did it for about a year and a bit. I wanted to be this international businessman. And I've just found it was super lethargic, super boring. I just couldn't understand my non-English speaking lecturers. It was just beating my head against the wall and I thought, is this it? And ultimately, that was the first moment that I started to shift my mindset into, I'll become a teacher. My parents are teachers, my family, heaps of them are teachers. I'll have a go. I'll do design, I'll do woodwork. After a conversation with my family, that's the avenue. But the thing is, I started, but I just didn't really put my best foot forward. Fast forward 5 years after another university change and pretty much bombing out for the first 3 years, working multiple graveyard shifts and just being too tired to even study. And then I said, no, enough's enough. I hit my threshold and I went and I moved out to Wagga. And that's where I completed my Bachelor's of Education Technology. And it was amazing. I became a targeted graduate. I became a graduation scholar. So meaning I was a targeted grad and then I had a scholarship to give me a permanent job as soon as I finished. So what does that lead me to? That led me out to Western Sydney. And that's where I really cut my teeth in education. But before I even started, I was pretty much yet to fail. But it is through that effort and that mentoring that really got me through the line. And before you knew it, within 3 years, I was a head teacher of a faculty. I started as the youngest team member by at least 20 years in that faculty. And within 3 years, I was the head of the team. And we basically turned that faculty from the most underperforming to the highest performing based on HSC results and enrollment numbers. And we did that by a few things like the Kid Core projects. We focused on HSC attainment and structured multimodal learning. So there was a couple of frameworks we did. So ever since I was in that early phase of teaching and I really wanted to teach overseas. But the thing is, I looked and the income was very, very low. The curriculum was way different of what I just spent all this time studying. And I just didn't know where to go. And the real thing is I didn't understand anything about human needs and the desire and the craving for certainty and stability. I didn't understand it, but inherently it was working. I was wanting certainty and I was wanting stability. Not many people know I've come from a relatively, you'd say, poor family. And it didn't mean we didn't have anything. It just meant I saw my parents struggling financially and had all this stress. And I saw my mum go through, she's a teacher, go through year after year after year after year of applying for jobs and never getting stability, never getting certainty. Because back when she was applying, there was a surplus of teachers and now there's this massive deficit. So I had this inherent desire for certainty and stability. And I didn't want to jeopardize that by going overseas and testing out and trialing and getting literally no income comparative to Australia in regards to teaching and teaching degrees. So I've always had this pull. I want to go and teach overseas, but I just don't know how, when, and what am I going to do. And that's why I use my targeted scholarship and my graduation to basically kickstart my career. I stayed in Western Sydney for 7 years. I rapidly progressed to head teacher, and then within a few years after that, I was selected for what we call the Fast Stream program. So this is the second pulling factor. And then I was targeted in, and basically enrolled into this program called Fast Stream. And that was a fast track to become a school principal, because there's many studies out there saying we've got an aging principal population and we need new people to take their spots, because there's not enough principals or aspiring principals to actually take their spots in Australia. So I went through a very intense recruiting process to basically demonstrate that I've got the abilities, I've got the skills, I've got the mindset and the ability to learn, and then become a mentee to various different principals as I progressed through the program, going from school to school and getting trained by each of these principals in different cases and different ways of working to then ultimately become a principal. Now, the program was for 10 years, and I had to give up my permanency in my current role as head teacher of industrial arts. I had to sever that. I then had to basically go through a year of just filling the holes. There was a massive teacher shortage. We were understaffed incredibly. I had 3 staff missing from my faculty alone, let alone the rest of the school. So I ended up going into head teacher admin roles, deputy principal relieving roles, while trying to manage my old faculty and train a new staff member to take over at the head teacher role. But now it's collapsing into one whole faculty rather than 2. And long story short, having to mentor them while doing all these other things was pretty intense. But ultimately, life is happening for us and not to us. This was the culmination of all these different things that I've been trying to get me from where I was to where I needed to be, and then take on that deputy principal role. And the last 3 years, that's where I've been. I've been working alongside many of my colleagues in that fast stream phase, but alongside some amazing people who have been mentoring me into the deputy principal role. It's been challenging, it's been hard, but it's been rewarding. But the thing is, you need to look, when you're making these decisions, what does the next 5 years look like? You need to look 5 years ahead and look one position above you ahead. See, I was a deputy principal, I was targeted to become a principal, and within 5 years, I should be in that role. Now I looked and I saw what I was dealing with daily, and I saw what they're dealing with daily, and I said, wow, this is a complete disconnect to what I thought reality was. When I was a head teacher, I was always in the office with the principal, we were doing strategic planning. But then when I became a deputy, it is so much more intense, well-being focused and sort of one-on-one focused rather than whole school broadening. It's just more about looking at where you want to go. And I looked at that principal role and I said, nah, not for me, not right now. And the real push came to me last July. I'd returned from visiting my older brother in Spain, and I landed, opened my email, and the first email I read was, you no longer have a job. I've got a 10-year contract to become a principal. What do you mean I don't have a job? And they basically made a decision without consultation with the participants to cut the entire program. They said, look, we're going to give you 12 months to figure out what you want to do. You can either go back as a head teacher, and you can be transferred 100 kilometers away from your home base right now, or you can start applying for different jobs. I was promised 10, given 4. Now what's next? I'd have enough certainty, enough stability, and enough understanding of my experiences. What am I going to do? Am I going to go out west and become a principal? Am I going to go into the city and go deputy principal again? Or am I going to go overseas and do international? Back in September now, 2024, I started applying for positions. I didn't hear anything for this one that I really was keen on for 3-4 months. Hit January, I get a call. Hey, do you want to jump on an interview? I thought this job was long gone. We did an hour. The head of the school was like, hey, look, we love to bring you over and just make sure we're a good fit. Within 24 hours, I was driving to an airport and I was jumping on a flight. And I was over there for 10 days, meeting their people and seeing if this was what I wanted to do. For the last 3 years, or 2.5, I've been deeply, intensely studying business again. Been training, and I've spent thousands, near $10,000 investing in my own personal learning in that world. And for the last 18 months, I've been launching offers. I've been helping and mentoring people for free and for paid. And the thing is, it took me nearly 18 months to make my first dollar online. And I was like, yes, sick. This is the win. Well, I'm now an accredited growth coach. One of the common denominators when you're going in that world is the bigger the monster you fight today, the better the story is tomorrow. And for me, it was going, nah, look, yes, I've got stability, But right now, bigger boss I need to go and face is to literally pack my life up into a suitcase and move overseas. And I'm super excited for that new chapter. I'm mid-pack. I am literally packing everything I own down into a suitcase. I've sold the rest of it and I'm starting again. But I'm starting from a new foundation, a new base, because there's a thing called a learn growth cycle. And we see this uninformed optimism. We go, oh, okay, this is a bit hard. And we get down to a valley. And this is called our valley of despair. This is where we give up hope. This is where we change vehicle. This is where we go, no, this is not working for me. I'm going to change a new thing. But if you can perceive and you can persist and you put that effort in, you can come out of that. You can actually cruise through to the next layer and that next iteration of growth. And that is where the real intense growth actually happens, is when we come out of that valley, we see the wins and we see the progress. Because now that I've been running this online community and I've been running all this in training for professional development for AI integration, technology use, leadership mentoring and coaching and business coaching, I'm just thinking about what is the story. So I've been pushed out by the department. They've made a decision, hey, we're going to force your hand. You either go back as a head teacher or you apply for a merit selection deputy, or you go out west, go overseas. Because all of that, it can come back. The crazy thing, there's a concept called, is this a two-way door or is this a one-way door? Most of the time, no. You can always come back, just give yourself the opportunity. I'm moving to Chiang Mai in Thailand, and I'm taking on a director of technology and innovation leadership role in a private school. I've got a degree in secondary technology and applied studies. I've been running and delivering that kind of training for years at universities, Western Sydney University and Charles Sturt University, lecturing in their Masters of Technology courses. And then I've been running all my own professional development for the people in my community and in my schools. When we focus on, is this a one-way door or a two-way door? More likely you can turn around and you can come back if it really doesn't work out. But the thing and the crazy story it reminded me of is when I actually went to Thailand, there was a big celebration for the Chinese New Year because there's all these international students. And I never experienced anything like it. And we're eating, we're chatting, and then they break out the fortune cookies. And I'm not really a superstitious. However, I cracked and it said, give wings to your dreams in 2025. And 2025 is going to be filled with happiness. It can sound a bit corny, but I was sort of genuinely in a new country after 24 hours after an interview, reading this thing going, holy crap, what you focus on is what you feel. This is incredible. This is the moment to make a decision to go, yes, let's do it. Think about the story. Think about this is happening for us and not to us. I'm traveling Europe for the next 5 weeks and then I'm starting for the new Thai New Year. If you want some help, if you want any of that kind of coaching, mentoring, I'm happy to take on a few small clients. But if you want to join the community, we're currently running everything AI. Right now, the focus is on AI, getting everyone to a base level so we can actually start thriving and not feel like we're terrified about what's actually happening in education. I'll leave a link in the description and a link for the coaching, but feel free to reach out. Remember, effort equals results. I will see you in the next one.